Everyone talks about passive income as if it were magic. Put your money in a corner, wait a little while, and voila, financial freedom. But there is a detail that almost no one realizes, and it is exactly what separates those who truly live off their income from those who remain stuck to their boss's clock. A silent but fatal mistake. In this video, you will discover what this mistake is, and more importantly, how to avoid it before 2025 passes and the opportunity slips away again. If your goal is to quit 9 to 5 in a real and sustainable way, this cannot be ignored. Press the like button now and subscribe to the channel because understanding this can be the first step towards the freedom that so many people only dream of. There's something strange happening to millions of people. They wake up, work, earn dollars, and yet they always stay in the same place. It's like running on a treadmill. It seems like they're moving forward, but the scenario never changes. This cycle is treacherous because it doesn't seem like a problem. After all, everything is under control. The salary goes down every month. The bills are paid, even if only to the limit. Sometimes there's even some money left over at the end of the month. But that's the trap. The false sense of progress. Time passes and the wealth doesn't grow. The money doesn't multiply. Freedom doesn't arrive. And then comes the subtlest scam. When there's something left over to invest, the destination is almost always the same ideas sold as passive solutions, that in practice are just poorly explained shortcuts. They invest in platforms that promise automatic returns. They invest in projects that no one understands but seem modern. They trust someone on TikTok who knows about a secret fund, and they end up losing the little they had without understanding why. This is not investing. It is desperation poorly disguised as optimism. The problem is not trying to generate passive income. The problem is thinking that anything that seems passive is automatic and safe. Real passive income starts with clarity, knowledge, and strategy. Without these, the person becomes a living experiment testing methods they don't understand, hoping that one of them will work. Meanwhile, the invisible cycle keeps going. Get paid, pay bills, try to invest in the dark, get frustrated, go back to square one. This is not freedom. It is prison with air conditioning. And the only way to break this cycle is to see it for what it really is. Here is the silent mistake that is delaying or even destroying the financial freedom of many people, believing that passive income is the starting point, when, in fact, it is the finish line. This inversion of logic is costing us dearly, because those who think that the game starts with passivity end up making decisions that appear intelligent, but are just anxiety disguised as strategy. Just look at how this manifests itself in everyday life. You buy a rental property with financing, with a tight margin, believing that it will pay for your freedom. You invest $1,000 hard-earned dollars in shares of companies that you heard someone mention on YouTube without even looking at the fundamentals. You build a portfolio of $3,000 hoping to generate consistent dividends as if that would cover bills, travel, or emergencies. But there is a mathematical truth that no one is forgiven for. There is no passive income without critical mass. And critical mass does not appear out of nowhere. It needs to be built with time, consistency, and vision. It is like trying to live off of renting properties, with a single house, financed, in a bad location, or try to live off compound interest, with $2,000 invested. It doesn't work, and it never will. This mistake is born from a legitimate desire to stop exchanging hours for money. But this desire, if not channeled well, turns into blind haste, and haste is the fuel for silent failure. The worst part is that when the results don't appear quickly, the blame falls on the method, and not on the timing error. The person thinks that this passive income thing doesn't work, when in fact they just tried to reap before sowing. And there's a cruel detail. Those who start off wrong often don't have the energy or resources to try again. Frustration paralyzes. Time passes. The fear of losing more sets in. And the dream of freedom turns into cynicism. "Oh, this living off income thing is only for those who are already rich." And that's not true. But starting at the end is like building the roof before the foundation. It seems smart, but it sinks with the first wind. The truth that almost no one wants to hear, and that few have the courage to say, is this: real passive income requires more effort than it seems. And the biggest paradox is this: before you can achieve the freedom of doing nothing, you need to go through a phase where you do much more than you would like. Passive income does not start with real estate, stocks, or dividends. It starts with strong active income. If there is no consistent machine generating dollars every month, then there is no foundation. Without a foundation, there is no accumulation. And without accumulation, there is no freedom. Most people want to make money work for them, but they have not done enough to have real money yet. And here is the part that hurts. Many people are trying to skip the construction part. They want to go straight to comfort. They want $5,000 invested to generate $500 per month. That $10,000 buys peace. But that is not passive income. That is emotional expectation, not financial. It's like trying to feed an entire family with an apple tree that hasn't even come out of the ground yet. Before you can harvest, you need to plant it, water it, protect it from the storm, and repeat until the tree grows big enough to sustain everything on its own. Without a phase of aggressive accumulation, with well-directed active income, you will always depend on luck. And depending on luck is not freedom. It's anguish. That's why the question shouldn't be, how do I create passive income? But rather, how do I make my active income so strong that it starts building assets on its own? Until this answer is clear, any attempt to live off income is just a fantasy disguised as a plan. And there's one more thing that no one talks about. The sooner you accept this truth, the faster you'll get out of the race. Because while most people are trying to escape their jobs, those who understand this are quietly building assets without rushing, but consistently. And in the end, those are the ones who really manage to get out of the game. Not because they tried to escape, but because they built the way out. Now, let's talk about the plan that really works. It's not sexy, it's not fast, and that's why almost no one talks about it. Because what doesn't promise results in 7 days doesn't get views. But this is the silent plan of those who truly achieve freedom. And it starts like this. Build an active income that you control. Don't depend solely on your traditional 9-to-5 job. Explore freelance work, side hustles, digital businesses. Sell a skill. Solve a real problem. Scale. The more you control your source of income, the more freedom you gain to direct your money strategically instead of just putting out fires. The question that changes everything here is, what can I do that generates real value and doesn't depend on a boss or a fixed salary? Invest in assets that grow while you live. True passive income comes from assets that mature over time. Value stocks with solid fundamentals. Real estate investment trusts with good management and a consistent track record. Digital businesses that sell even when you're sleeping. We're not talking about fads that explode and disappear. We're talking about assets that seem slow at first but that, over time, become an avalanche. The trick? Resist the temptation to withdraw money before it's time. Automate your contributions. This part seems simple, but it's where most people fail. If it depends on discipline, the money will always find another priority. But if you automate every month without thinking, your investments will start to grow as if they were part of the electricity bill. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't weigh you down. And most importantly, it doesn't depend on your willpower. Reinvest every penny of your profits. This is the magic of the snowball effect. At first, the return seems small. Earning $40 in dividends? Irrelevant. But reinvesting those 40, and then 80, and then 200 is what turns a $10,000 portfolio into $100,000 over time. Not because of the amount that comes in, but because of the consistency in not spending what has not yet matured. Only after years should you think about harvesting. The harvest phase does not arrive because you decided to live off income. It arrives when the assets generate enough to fund your lifestyle without dismantling the castle. And here is the curious detail. People who follow this path when they finally get there discover that they do not want to stop producing, because they no longer do it for survival. They do it by choice. This is real freedom. It is not the most fun plan, nor the most popular, but it is the silent plan that, behind the scenes, transforms ordinary workers into masters of their own time. And the craziest thing, it is within the reach of anyone willing to do the basics consistently and without taking shortcuts that lead nowhere. This is where many people stumble. The moment an ad appears saying, "Make money while you sleep," or "Build passive income in 7 days, no experience," the brain wants to believe it, because the promise is beautiful, because fatigue is real, and because, deep down, there is a desire to escape quickly. But let's be honest. If these easy solutions really worked, airports would be packed with people going to live in Bali with a laptop and an iced cappuccino. But the reality is harsher, and much more common than you might imagine. People who buy a property with a high-interest loan, expecting to earn money from the rent, and discover that the tenant is late or the property is empty for months. People who spend weeks recording an online course thinking it will sell itself, and see 3 views in the first month, 2 of them from their own mother. Beginner investors who put $2,000 into a crypto that was on sale and watch the asset plummet 70% in 3 weeks. The promise of passive income has become a product, and like every product sold en masse, it is molded to seem simple, accessible, and irresistible. But there is a detail that almost no one mentions. The person who benefits the most from these shortcuts is not you. It is the person who sells the formula. This is the new trap of the digital age, selling ready-made dreams to those who are tired of the routine, but without showing the real effort behind success. And the worst, these shortcuts not only don't work, but they divert you from the path that really works. They make you waste time, energy, and often money that could be spent building real assets. Because passive income is not a click. It is not a viral video. It is not a lucky bet. It is structure. It is strategy. It is a sequence of difficult decisions that no one wants to make because it is hard work. It takes time, and there is no applause at the beginning. But those who face this with maturity, who focus on what really matters, will get there, without illusions, and with a freedom that no one can take away. While most people are still looking for the quickest way out, the smartest people in 2025 are playing a completely different game, a quieter game, a more strategic one, and one that almost never shows up on social media because it's too much work to show the process. They're not trying to escape work. They're creating systems that work for them. Systems like YouTube channels that generate revenue from views even while they're traveling, blogs and newsletters with affiliate links that sell products 24 hours a day, software as a service, SaaS, where the code works every month without requiring constant effort, books, courses, and materials that pay royalties every month, even years after they're created, and now even licensed content with AI being rented by companies that need scale but don't want to create everything from scratch. But be careful. None of this started as passive. It started with sweat, with testing, with sleepless nights trying to figure out how to turn an idea into a system that generates value. These people aren't looking for passive income as an escape. They are building passive income as a result of doing something well. And do you know what makes them really different? They don't skip steps. They build stairs. While many want an elevator straight to the top, the smart ones prefer to make sure that each step is solid. First, they strengthen their active income. Then, they use the surplus to reinvest in projects, ideas, and assets. Then, they create automation and scalability mechanisms. And only then, with patience, do the real fruits come, which don't disappear in a market crash. And there's more. They don't fall into the trap of rushing. They know that trying to live off dividends with a $4,000 portfolio is asking for failure, So they accumulate, re-inject, adjust, with the calm of those who understand that true freedom is not born from luck, but from control. What they are doing in 2025 is nothing new, but it is more powerful than ever because the tools have evolved, and now anyone can create a system with global potential right from their own bedroom. The question is, are you going to keep trying to jump to the final stage, or are you going to draw your own staircase step by step? Everyone talks about living off passive income, but almost no one stops to answer the most important question: how much is enough? Let's be concrete. Suppose you want to live on $4,000 a month, a comfortable amount for many in the United States. We're talking about $48,000 a year. Now, to generate this amount passively without having to sell time for money, you would need assets of approximately $1,200,000, yielding 4% per year, net. Is that a lot? Yes. But the problem isn't the size of the goal. It's the illusion that it can be achieved with little effort and in a short time. This number isn't magic. It's mathematical, and it's what separates the dream from reality. But there's a secret here. You don't have to start big, but you do have to start right. Few people have $1 million to spare, but many people could build that number with time, consistency, and a sharp strategy. Just look. If someone can invest $1,500 per month in good assets with an average annual return of 7% in 20 years, this amount can already exceed $800,000. By increasing the contribution to $2,000 per month, the million will arrive sooner than it seems. And the stronger your active income, the more you can contribute. The faster the effect of compound interest begins to work in your favor, the more you accelerate the machine towards freedom. The equation is simple, but the execution is for few because it requires sacrifice now, for a reward that only comes later. Most prefer $200 immediately, instead of planting $2,000 that can turn into $20,000. But those who understand the game know that the right question was never how to get rich quick, but rather, how much do I need to accumulate to never depend on a salary again? This number exists. It is not a fantasy, but it will not build itself. It needs a plan, of discipline, of action, and, most importantly, of someone who is willing to give up the easy today for the free tomorrow. In 2025, there is a new species in extinction, the honest educator. Because for every serious person building a real path to financial freedom, there are 100 gurus selling a promise they never lived. It's easy to spot. They always start with a magic phrase, "See how I make money while I sleep." But the video ends with a link to the course that costs $297. And guess what? They're not making money while they sleep. They're making money from you, if you buy into the illusion. Most of them don't live off what they preach. They live off selling the dream. And they have a pattern. They promise independence in 2 hours a day. They say that passive income comes with a click. They show cars, trips, lifestyle, but never show the behind the scenes, the mistakes, the costs, the risks. There's only one reason for this. Their plan doesn't stand the light of day. But those who really understand how financial freedom works don't need to appeal. They don't need to promise magic, because they know that what really works takes time, sweat, and consistency. And, curiously, those who have the best results are precisely those who talk the least about their own earnings. They are too busy building assets, adjusting strategies, reinvesting profits, and enjoying the fruits calmly without having to prove anything to anyone. If the plan they sold you only works if you keep paying to learn, that is not passive income. It is a pyramid scheme disguised as a method. So, before buying any miracle formula, ask yourself, does this person really make a living from what they teach? Or do they only survive because many people believe they do? The answer, almost always, says it all. If there is one force that separates those who live off passive income from those who are always trying, it is this: Silent multiplication. Because while many people are still looking for the next big leap, the smartest ones are focused on something much more powerful: exponential growth. The formula is simple, but almost no one respects it. Value EX, X, consistency. Look at this example. $1,000 invested at an average rate of 10% per year do not just become $2,500 in 10 years by chance. They grow because the interest starts to generate its own interest. And at a certain point, the curve stops being linear. It shoots up. But this same effect applies to everything. A YouTube channel that generates $100 per month? If you post consistently, improve your delivery, understand your audience, and reinvest in the content, that number can become 1,000 or 10,000. It's not because the channel became famous. It's because you got the process right and the process repeats itself. That's the real power of passive income. It grows on its own once you build the right system. But here's the funny thing. Most people give up before the system gets going. Because the beginning is slow. It's frustrating. The first investments don't seem to pay off. The first month of a digital product can bring in $27. The blog spends weeks with 14 visitors. The channel barely pays for coffee. And that's where the game separates the curious from the consistent. The multiplication doesn't happen in the second month. It happens when you survive the second year. And the more you feed the system with contributions, time, adjustments, and reinvestments, the more it responds, until you reach the point where the money starts working with more energy than you ever could. That's the moment when the clock becomes your partner, and time starts playing on your team, but only for those who built the gears with patience. The rule isn't magic, it's mathematics, and when respected, it delivers a miracle with a technical name: freedom. You understand the mistake. You understand the path. But the question that screams now is, and what do I do today? Because just saying, one day I'll live off passive income, doesn't change anything. The change starts with small decisions that, in the future, seem big. And the first one is, stop looking for shortcuts and start building the engine. Here's the clear, direct, and possible plan. Choose an active source of income with the potential to scale. It doesn't have to be the perfect job. It needs to be something that can grow. Freelance, digital marketing, e-commerce, content production. The important thing is that the ceiling is high and that you have control over your time throughout the process. Because without scale, there is no freedom. Cut what doesn't generate a return and reinvest with anger. Subscriptions that you don't even remember. 5x weekly delivery, impulse purchases, all of this is delaying your freedom. Every wasted dollar is a soldier that could be fighting in your financial army. Study the assets that pay dividends. Don't throw darts in the dark. Understand why companies like Realty Income, O, Johnson & Johnson, J&J, and Procter & Gamble, PG, are the darlings of those who live off dividends. Not because they are exciting, but because they are consistent. And consistency is the raw material for real passive income. Use technology to your advantage. Platforms like Fundrise, Robinhood, M1 Finance, Fidelity, SoFi Invest, they are there to automate contributions, diversify investments, and keep your plan running even when life is chaotic. Setting up automatic contributions is like hiring a financial assistant who never sleeps. And, most importantly, don't fall into the trap of rushing. This game is won by those who stay. What seems small now, $20, $50, $100 a week, may seem irrelevant. But in 2 years, it will be the difference between continuing to work out of obligation or starting to have choices. You don't need luck. You need a system. And that system starts today. The mistake was never to dream of freedom. In fact, this dream is what still keeps many people going. The problem is that they sell freedom as if it were a button, when in fact, it is a ladder. Passive income does not happen overnight. It is the result of decision. And what most keeps people from achieving this goal is not a lack of knowledge. It is impatience. Because it seems like everyone is achieving it. except you. You see people showing off their lifestyle on social media, their travels, their earnings, their dividends. But what no one shows you is what goes on behind the scenes. The tough beginning, the months or years of investing without any visible return. That phase when everything seems slow, until one day, suddenly, it speeds up. If you have made it this far in this video, it is because some part of you is tired of just surviving. And that part deserves to be heard, because 2025 could still be the year of change, but only if the decision is accompanied by action, not more promises. The time to plant is now. Even if the fruits seem far away, even if the world continues to offer tempting shortcuts, you've already seen that they don't work. The truth, those who start right now will get there faster than they imagine. And when they get there, they'll look back with pride for not having given up halfway. If this video brought you clarity, value, or simply made you think differently, like and subscribe to the channel. In the next episodes, we'll continue showing you how to build real income, scale your earnings, invest strategically, and accelerate the process intelligently without shortcuts, but with direction. Because you don't need a miracle. You need a plan that works. And that plan starts with the next video.